Hey, Tom here, Flip Anything USA. So I got a very special guest here, Ron Douglas. Ron Douglas is somebody who's become a friend of mine, but the way I met Ron is he signed up for my mentorship. And interesting enough, he is a mentor himself. Besides being a rock star student, and he's one of the first interviews that I did, and he's made millions of dollars since being in the mentorship and real estate, something that was a bit foreign to him, right? Mostly, not completely.
Yeah. I didn't do real estate up until I met you.
But and I'll let him speak for himself, but he mentors other people in business, and we're going to talk about what he does. And so yeah, thanks for coming on, Ron. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. You don't want to miss my channel. I've been doing it for years. It's always a pleasure
Yeah.
talking to you.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. I've owned over 40 companies. I've had 40 successful exits. I've built up a lot of different companies in a lot of different industries, and so I do a lot of mentoring. But the one thing that always bugged me when I sold all my businesses, I moved down here to Southern Colorado, and one thing that always bugged me was real estate. I always wanted to do real estate, but I was always so busy with my businesses that I never did. And I used to flip cars. That was one of my first businesses, was flipping classic cars.
Yeah.
And I always thought, man, there's just, it's like flipping cars, but with more zeros. And I always had that in the back of my head. And so I thought, you know what, I'm gonna go find a mentor, figure out this real estate thing, and see if it's something worth jumping on. And
Oh,
I'm
so
glad I
you actually
did.
went on
Glad
a
I met
mission
you.
to find a mentor.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That was the first thing you do. First, at least for me, that's the first thing I always do is why be the guy driving around in circles refusing to ask for directions? That's just silly.
No, no, I agree. And like myself, so we talk about mentors, and I've been in jujitsu, I think, for like 8.5 years, something like that now. And there's just no way. You get a guy that's a pro at compromising the body. And I interviewed Carlos Machado. The Machado brothers, are a big part of what brought Gracie and Machado brothers brought jiu-jitsu to the USA. When somebody has done something for so long, like somebody's owned 40 businesses like Ron, you're gonna run into a problem that might be you've had it for the first time. He's seen it several times, or maybe he's only seen it happen one time. That's what's really, really interesting about an experienced mentor. When you have a lot of students and you have people come to you with problems, they may run into something that rarely happens, and they don't even know who to go to. There's nobody even really to go to, but they happen to find a mentor. Oh yeah, that did happen back in 1992. That is
Yeah.
gold. And I'm sure that's happened with you and your students as well, correct?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's amazing what some of these guys can get into. You're like, how did that even happen? And
Yeah.
so yeah, you end up trying to guide your way through that. But it's interesting because the mentor, even if they have only been through that experience once or whatever, they have such a wealth of knowledge all the way around that problem that it's easy for them to navigate that problem. Just like, when I call you on real estate deals, and real estate issues, I'll call you first, obviously, because it's like, well, if he doesn't know how to circumnavigate this, he knows somebody that does, or he can figure it out. So
Right.
way
Well,
faster than I can.
yeah. And the thing is, when you've been into so many different situations for so many years, me, it's over 4 decades now just in real estate, that even if you run into something, maybe I haven't had exactly the same thing, it doesn't matter. It's basically the same. And so
Yep.
it's not
Yep.
hard to figure it out. And, just from drawing on past experience, there's other things, there's litigious things that can happen. There's all kinds of stuff. And I'm sure with what you've run into also, and you just want to mitigate the damages and kill it as quickly as possible. Let's talk about some of the industries you've been in, Ron.
Oh man, just about everything. I've owned, blue collar, white collar, internet-based businesses. I've done, I had drop shipping companies. I've had shipping companies. I had restoration. I did the classic car restoration business. I've done auto transport. I had a greenhouse company. I've had wildlife companies. I've had cleaning companies. I've had you name it. I've had just about something in just about every industry there is.
So would between the companies you had, what percentage product and what percentage service?
Oh, interesting. Oh, I've never even thought about that. Man, I would say mostly service. Service is easy, in my opinion.
Really?
Yeah, I think service is super easy. You can build $1 million company virtually overnight. I mean, it doesn't take much to take on a service business because service sucks. People suck at service, and so it's not hard to
Right.
dominate in a market
Yeah.
like that, you know.
Yeah.
And so, just deliver under promise and over deliver, and
Because the best, I was going to say, the best realtors I know aren't necessarily the brightest people. They make very good money, but they just show up. And this
they
goes to the
show
point you
up.
were saying about service, because everybody's so shitty at service. And I'm telling you, you could be a below average skilled person at whatever, anything. But guess what? If you show up, just do the work. And really, for an agent, that's all they got to do sometimes is just show up. Be there, find look for a property, show a property, but always show up, be reliable. And it's just like a lot of stuff, even with real estate, with what we do as investors, is we're always looking, and but we're always showing up with no guarantee of return. There's no guarantee there's a return. But it's showing up for the opportunity that may present itself, right?
Yep, yep. If I was a realtor, which actually one of my sons just became a realtor, and so
Okay.
my advice to him was to build a list of people like me that are looking for good deals on properties and constantly blast me with good deals. And as soon as the deal pops up, why am I calling you as a realtor, or why am I finding out about this from somebody else? I should be finding out about this from my realtor. My realtor should be the first one to
He,
notify me on
he
stuff.
should be, I mean, everything, every notification. I mean, there's so many notifications out there. People getting lured into this AI. Guess what? Everybody already has AI. You can get on the notifications for everybody that has anything for sale that's listed anywhere, and you're going to get a notification. And
Yep.
and so even if you're an agent, you get the notification, then you just fire it off to Ron right away. He'll give you credit for the one that's bringing it to him, as I would too. But that's like say, it's about showing up and just doing the work. I think is so
Just
important.
doing it.
And
Yeah. Just showing up and just deliver, over deliver, Oh, I want to be surprised. Oh, I get a text message. Oh, he's remembering that I'm looking for this stuff and he's texting me, instead of me having to call the realtor and go, "Hey, have you heard anything this week? Or is there,
right.
I saw this house for sale over here. Do you know anything about it?" And
But we know both are
and it's
important,
news
right?
to him, and it's news to him. It's like, why is it news to you? You should be knowing about this, something hitting the market way before I do.
Yeah. So, so we're kind of going into some tough times here. Interest rates are high. They're not even high compared to when I started. Interest rates are over 10%. And so, I see people, they always have an excuse not to get involved with real estate. Oh, things are too high, or the market's too hot, or the market's too slow. It's like, shit, what is it? Is it just right? No, it's always a good time to invest. You just have to buy based on what the values are today. You got to buy for less than that. Nobody knows that better than myself and Ron and the other students in the class. Apply that to businesses for sale.
Yeah, same thing. And so, um, it's something interesting that you said that relates to businesses all over the world, really, is, you know, somebody's always dying, somebody's always getting a divorce, somebody's always retiring, there's always a circumstance to sell a house. Same thing with business. There's always a circumstance to sell a business.
Yep.
And so not everybody is looking to completely clean somebody out when they sell. They're just trying to get rid of this place, trying to dump it. They got problems. Some guy had a stroke. He's been running this machine shop for 30 years, and his wife doesn't know what to do with it, and she just wants to get rid of it.
Yep.
And so, yeah, same thing with houses. It's the same thing with businesses. And so it's so funny how they correlate. It's almost identical.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
the difference is you go to the bank to get a loan on a house, where a lot of people can just go to the SBA and get a loan on the business. But you can go to SBA to buy businesses. So it's so interesting how you can use both, and you can still finance and still leverage the heck out of it. Just like you were talking about, you can still leverage the heck out of a business and get a smoking deal on a business.
Through
There's so
SBA or through owner carry.
guys, yeah, owner carry. Yeah, I usually do a combination of owner carry and SBA, and you can literally walk into a business that is making $1 million a year and never pay a dime. And so one of the kids here locally, he was 17 when I first met him. He recognized me from that Discovery Channel TV show that I did a while back, and he told me, he goes, I want to start a landscape company. I want to build the biggest landscape company in the valley. And we live in a mountain valley up here. And so I said, okay, I tell you what, this is how you do it. And he listened to me. He went out and he bought a freaking $50 lawnmower and just cut all the grass he could cut that summer and saved all his money. And then he took that money, and then the next year we went and I said, let's wait till winter when it's really slow, and then hit up the landscape company. And we hit him up, made him an offer, went through the SBA. He used the money that he saved from cutting grass. This kid went from 17 years old with a $50 lawnmower cutting grass. Now he owns 5 trucks, has like 10 employees, and he's only like 21, and he owns the largest landscape company in the valley. I mean,
Wow.
that's just the way to do it, you know?
Yeah, yeah, and I bet he shows up on time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that kid's a go-getter. He's awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting what you say, like the things that are you know, that parallel you know, deals, like I say, death, divorce, disease, depression. There are a lot of
Yeah.
D's. I always say a lot of D's. And
Yeah.
it-
Well, and like you said, there's no such thing as bad real estate. There's the same thing with businesses. No such thing as a bad business, just a bad deal.
right, just pay too
And
much, like
so
anything, right?
yeah, exactly. And so if the business sucks, then you just offer less, you know, same with the house, you know, if the house sucks, you just offer less. If it needs a lot of work to get it going, you offer less. And if they accept it, then it's a good deal. All of a sudden it's a good deal. And so, yeah, the correlations are so close. That's the
And, you
reason
know,
why I really took off with the real estate and build up that, you know, what did we build up to? Like a $5 million portfolio in like less than 3 years. I mean,
yeah.
and using zero money. I mean,
Yeah, this is interesting. So when Ron became a student, he was one of my first interviews actually, because he did so well right off the bat. And he'd made his 200,000. That's still the testimonial that I have sitting on the site. And then next thing you know, it was $1 million, then 2 million, then 3 million. And last time you know, Ron tells me, he says, yeah, Tom, it goes up to $5.5 million in real estate and about 1.5 million or 1.7 million in debt, right? Not much
million
debt.
seven, yeah.
So yeah, so to make $4 million in equity and cash, and you know, it's amazing. And you know, we've already got other students here now that, you know, have equally done extremely well. Different.
Yeah, probably better than me now. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've had them exceed me now. So,
But yeah,
uh,
it's funny because you, like I say, Ron's got a honey hole. That's what I like to call it. He's got like you got a honey hole or an efficient spot, right, with the fish, right? And they do dry up and change, but he'll find another one, and that's just how it is with fishing. It really is. I try to tell my kids it's like a treasure hunt. We're treasure hunting all the time with real estate, and
yeah,
I was just. You know, in
yeah,
fact, a perfect example, Jerry in the class, did one of the best deals of anybody. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I've ever done he's got a $3.5 million piece of real estate for $975,000. Absolute knockout. You know, one property.
so everything I've done, he literally did on one property.
Yeah, no, and that can happen. You know, I always I won't get into real estate too much in this. You know, when people inherit money, they don't do their due diligence to make sure that you get as much as possible. The last thing I want is when I pass on my assets to my kids is I don't want them squandering because it was easy money. And that's
Yeah.
the worst thing.
Well, and I think probably one of the biggest hangups for most people is fear of failure, you know, and as you know, I failed on every one of my deals. I messed up something on, you know, my first half dozen deals. I messed up something. You know, I didn't do the paperwork right, or I had to do this right. I had to change up this. I went to the bank on a piece of property that I thought I owned and I didn't own. You know what I mean? I made every mistake there was, but I failed forward. I just kept making money while I was learning.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm
Fail
not scared
forward
to
is an
fail.
interesting statement, way to put it. And you know, it's something that, and I don't know, it's not, some people have to overcome that, right? I'm guessing that you're like me. You've never had to overcome it. You just get out there. You go, look, I ain't gonna make any money
Just do
sitting
it.
here. So you try,
Yeah.
and then you fail, and you learn from it. Or, you know, and you don't always fail. Sometimes you try, and you go, wow, this is good. And then and what's nice is the money that you make doing something. It allows you to variate a little bit and find out, you know what, I'm not so good on this. Ow, I lost some money. And then you get back on the track and that's real estate's been a fantastic, you know, engine for me to make money.
If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. I tell people that all the time. You know, people always dream of wanting to start a business or something. And have you ever done it? And they're like, no. Go do it and see if you even
Right.
like it before you invest $150,000 in the business.
Right.
And
And I guess that's where people also lose it. Because like you say, I can reason and assess the risk when I'm going to do something and go, yeah, this is, people say, they'll say, you got balls of steel buying that real estate. No, it's just common sense. I'm stealing it. You don't understand. I'm stealing it. I would have to be incompetent not to buy it. It's worth more than I'm paying for it. Yeah. But they don't have the knowledge that me and you have on that. But at the same time, some people just kind of go, oh, the hell with it, and they throw money without doing their due diligence. That's scary, and I can't relate to
that's
that
scary.
either.
Yeah, that's where you mess up.
As far as your businesses, what is one of the most common questions you get when somebody, like a first timer, comes to you to talk to you about something? Is it like, I'm thinking about starting a business, or I'm stuck, or
I think most people have a hard time wrapping their head around. I don't know why $1 million seems to be that unachievable goal. That's kind of where I settled with mentoring giants is helping people break that first million. Because once you get past that middle $1 million mark, the sky's the limit. You can do anything you want at that point, you know. And so, but for some reason, I don't know why that $1 million seems to be a hangup for a lot of people. Whether it's unachievable, unobtainium, whatever that you want to call it. And so once they realize how easy it is to break it, then they run with it. But I think that's probably the first thing people come to me about is how do you get to $1 million? I'm making $150,000 a year and I can't seem to, you know, break that. And
mm,
it's because they have a job, not a business. They need to, it's just like real estate, right? It's like you've got all the puzzle pieces in front of you. You just got all the pieces in the wrong spot. You just need to move them around a little bit, and your business will launch. You know what I mean? And so it's the same thing.
yeah, I know in manufacturing, because I used to be a cabinet maker. I had a cabinet shop for just 9 years, 8 months, but I was a millionaire from real estate. And that's when I said, I'm done. I'm selling this company. I don't need it anymore. Real estate's my first love. It's the only thing that I've really ever been able to do extremely well my whole life. And so there's just nothing, nobody can convince me otherwise. There's no reason to. And that's why I preach it so much. But business is also, I've had quite a few businesses. I've got some patents, I've had some inventions, and when what I like about inventions and the proprietary, they're not easy. You know what I mean? And that's kind of like having a piece
Mhm.
of real estate that's on the beach. You can't take it. It's not as easy to replicate or
Yep.
copy. So,
Oh,
uh,
I agree with you. I'm hands down pro real estate. I mean, I will, matter of fact, I advise all my boys. My boys got they all have their own businesses, but they also are all dabbling in real estate, and I tell them all the same stuff, I was like, get if you want to do your own business, that's fine, but get into real estate way sooner than I did. Don't wait as long as I did to get into real estate. Because if I'd have bought my $5 million portfolio in my 20s and 30s, that same $5 million portfolio today would be worth 15. I mean, gee, even at Christmas. So yeah,
yeah, it's
but
been really fun watching somebody like Ron grow his portfolio because he's late to the game as far as real estate goes, right? But he's made up for it really, really quickly. But it would be so fun to see him because I see him buying stuff. Oh, that's great. He killed it. He's buying stuff 50 cents on the dollar and doubling his money, or not even more than doubling his money. He's getting a small amount of money, putting down, buying it, but he's buying an asset that's worth twice as much as he's paying for it. And so I
yeah.
see it building, and then pretty soon I'm starting to see the headaches come. He's starting to have tenants. The phone's starting to ring on the weekends, and he's starting to get a few of and then, when you work all this stuff out, you do figure it out. But it's just funny to see. Oh, I remember those days. You know what I mean? And then there are other things like, if I sell this to defer the money from this into this, I got to have something to buy that's bigger. And that's the vicious part of the game is, with the 1031s is everything you buy, you have to buy something that's as much as more to get the full, the
Yeah.
benefit of the deferral. So it's just all of a sudden you go, gee, I made 350,000, but I'm
Can't
not
touch
gonna
it.
I'm not gonna make it on another $100,000 property because now I have to roll this in. I have to buy something that's worth 500 to defer all
Yeah.
that money, or buy a couple of the little ones. So, but I see, anyways, it's really been cool, and it's really been fun too, watching you and the others
Yeah.
do well. But
You know,
so
it's funny. I took my son to lunch the other day, and I said, have you ever thought about starting a property management company?"
yeah, yeah, selfishly,
uh,
yeah, yeah.
totally for selfish reasons, right? It's like, here's all my properties. You deal with
Yeah,
it.
well, I tell you what I did is I have given how many trucks? I gave my two main guys, I gave them both pickups. One of them, my main guy, I put him right in the heart, I bought a house and put him right in the middle of my portfolio. He's as close to everything as I am, right? I'm in the middle of everything. He's in the middle of everything. And of course, I incentivize him, pay him well, but I no longer have to take those, midnight calls
Yeah.
and it's funny because I ran into him at lunch today at my restaurant I own, one of the buildings I own. And this morning I had sent him a video of water dripping from a ceiling. And I said, they sent this to me. And I always tell my tenants, they say, hey, you need to include Miguel in this. You'll get faster service, because he's the go-to guy, not me anymore. And so I sent that to him, and then I see him at lunch, bumped to at lunch. And I said, hey, did you get over there and see? He goes, yeah. He goes, we got to let it dry out. And that's right. I said, well, hey, isn't it nice though that we got this on a Friday morning instead of a Friday evening
Friday
or a
night.
Saturday
Yeah.
morning? It's just,
It always happens on Friday evening, doesn't it?
oh, it seems like it always happens. It's because when
Ah,
it does happen on a Friday evening, it is the worst. It's
oh
the
man.
worst time. You
I
can't
remember
get
I
any
was going
help.
out with my wife on a date,
Yeah,
and I said, "All right, let's go." And phone rang. Well, I got in the car and the phone was ringing. I grabbed it, and oh yeah, fridge isn't working, and all the food is spoiled. Well, if it's food spoiled, then the fridge has been bad for 3 days, and you're just now calling me on a Friday night. And gosh, dang it,
yeah, yeah. Treat your tenants like customers. That's the best way to put it.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah,
it says
and
it
take
all.
care of your portfolio. I mean, I'm always going and driving around and checking out my portfolio, and I'm taking down notes. Oh, the eaves need painted on this one, or that roof's looking a little old. Let's maybe schedule, a new a re-roof in the next 6 months or something like that. And I'm always staying on top of my portfolio because I always want everything to be ready to sell.
Yeah,
If something goes bad, I want my portfolio. If something happens to me and my wife doesn't want to deal with any of this, and she wants to get rid of that portfolio. I want it to be ready to go, you
yeah.
know.
Just tell her to call me. I'll buy it. No, I'm kidding. No, but it's true. But it's true. You have to really impart to your heirs, don't squander these assets. These are what these are worth,
Yeah,
you're going to get some outside, guidance, we're put it sell to the highest offer, we're going to put it on the market and that sort of thing. Because you're not there, you can't control it from the grave. But oh yeah. If you looked at my photos, I would say 1/3 of the photos in my photo library in my phone are pictures of unfinished jobs and light switches and problems and paint and anything, like I say, like if I take a picture and then most of the stuff immediately gets text to either an AC man, an electrician, or one of my property people, and they know what it means, and if I don't think
yeah,
they recognize the trash can or the wall or the surroundings, then I'll put a note, hey, this is I don't even have to tell them what to do. There, I can see that's not perfect, go fix it. So yeah.
yep, exactly. Totally. I try to stay on top of all that stuff, and again, I always want it to be ready to sell because you never know when you got to sell it. I was doing the math because you called me earlier, and so I decided to update my numbers here just to see where I'm at. Am I off on this? But I did the cap rate on this, and for my whole portfolio, I'm averaging a 26% cap rate.
Yeah,
Is
well,
that
it's
is that
you've got a 26% cap rate on purchase price, correct?
yeah? Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, not on a purchase price, on what I owe on them versus what I'm collecting on them.
Oh, okay. Well, this is what I love about Ron. He's because he's like me in that respect too. But in other words, I'm not sure we're talking about the same formula on the math here exactly. But
Okay, that's why
one
I
thing
want
he
to figure
does
this out.
understand better than anybody is don't pay more than half of what it's worth. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So on your cap rate, I mean, I mean, it's just simple. I mean, the math on that is pretty simple. You know, I mean, a property that's worth $1 million,
Uh-huh.
that is paid for brings in $60,000 net.
Okay.
That's a 6 cap.
That's a six
So,
cap. Right.
yeah.
Right.
So
And so I'm looking
you
at all
got $4
mine,
million
but
in
I
equity, right?
right. And
5
so I
million in
subtract
property.
everything. I subtract my employees. I'm subtracting all my repairs, everything. I'm all the interest, tax, payments, taxes.
Principal, you shouldn't count. You can count principal because that's you. Every
Oh,
principal,
yeah.
you can add that to that's your money. You're just paying
Okay.
down a loan.
I thought a 26% cap was pretty good.
Oh, no, it's
On a
fantastic. No, if
on a
if
$4
I
million
go
project.
back to my, I mean, yeah, I mean, no, 26% cap rate is phenomenal. But a lot of times you end up getting there because you paid, you know, you bought a property for $300,000 that's worth $1 million. And then maybe a
Yeah.
little time goes by. Now that property's worth, I mean, this is my own portfolio. I mean, I got a building that's worth $4 million that I built it for 650. I paid 300 for the land. So whatever, I got $1 million in there. That property, I get a net 300,000 so I'm making 300,000. I'm getting a 30% cap rate
You're getting a 30 cap.
on
Yeah.
what it cost me and what it cost me to build, right? The $1 million
Sure. Yeah.
on my $1 million
Yeah.
investment. But if you if you market to market, okay, and I'm getting 300,000 on you know, whatever, on a $4 million building. So, you know, so now, or just say it's a $3 million building. Now I'm getting you know, a 10
A
cap.
10 cap.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I think it's doing pretty good. You know, and I've just been focusing on you know, trying to figure out I'm at that fine line. If I can't find more real estate, I'm thinking about paying. If I can't find deals, I'm thinking about just paying down what I owe. Just
I don't think you
what
should do it. I don't think you should unless it's here's the deal. How old are
because
you?
I got such good interest rates on these. That's the
No,
other
it
thing. I
doesn't
told
make
my wife, it's like
sense.
I pay them down. It doesn't make any
Yeah.
sense. Yeah.
No, no, listen, when I buy a property now, I mean, if I could just pay interest only on everything that I have, I would pay interest only. I would never pay on the principal. I would just never pay on the principal. There's no reason. There's no reason to. It feels good. Don't get me wrong. It feels good.
Yeah,
And
it
this,
does feel
but
good.
I'll tell you, this is something I see that people do when they're concerned. And I'm not saying this is your situation. It's just common sense to feel secure having things paid off anyways. But when, when times are getting tough, that's not when you pay things off. That's when you hold on to every penny. Because if somebody moves out, if things start breaking around you, you want to have money is what's going to get you through it. You know what I mean? You can have everything
Yeah.
paid for and then have things start breaking down and you don't have any money to fix it. You know what I mean? And I'm talking about a
Yeah.
vacancy, and that could be a break, you know, to me is a vacancy.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think that you also here's one thing I'd like to hear from you actually is because one of the things that you post up is you know, people that are in the real estate guru industry that are full of crap, right? Um and I'd like to get a list of people that aren't. So that I can watch them on a regular basis. You know, kind of like Ben Mala, right? Ben Mala's kind of the real deal. You know, who's the real deal? Ken was it Ken McElroy or something like that?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
look, I can't see it. Here's the deal. I have thought people were legit. Like when I just started dabbling in the YouTube thing, I thought, oh yeah,
Yeah.
this guy I think's okay. Like Grant Cardone. Okay. Grant Cardone is very talented salesman. I think he's got a good uh, protocol for, you know, business. And I don't mean that he's
Yeah.
a good businessman, but he knows, like we say, show up, work your ass off, be an asset
Yep.
in the company. You know, I mean, this is all good common sense stuff. And but he extrapolated that to mean that he was a good real estate investor. And his advice is shit on real estate.
Yeah.
And he doesn't know what he's talking about. Now, he can't really tell people, yeah, you know, let's, you know, invest with me. And you know what I mean? I mean, they're just they're the money. I mean, this is my opinion. But I've never seen Grant Cardone do anything spectacular with real estate. And I've seen him give advice that would seem contrary to how he made his money. I know he made a lot of money on a home and threw that into an apartment building. But he's telling people, don't buy your house, don't buy a house. And he's telling people don't buy a
Yeah.
house at a time when houses were doubling, in like a year or two. So terrible advice. So again, now Ken McElroy, like I say, I don't sit here and study people, but Ken looked to me like he was a small piece of a bigger thing. In other words, he was like one of the workers within a group, like
Uh-huh.
what's the
What,
Kiyosaki?
Rich Dad, Poor Dad or something like that? Yeah, he was
Yeah,
one.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I haven't read the book, but I know people tell me that like my book, they're like Rich Dad, Poor Dad book for different reasons. One kind of common sense, don't, I know very, very little about that book, to be honest. But mine's about how to make money. A lot of these guys are
Right.
about this, don't squander your money, which is also obviously,
I mean, your book is probably the only book I think that I've ever actually bought for other people. And as you know, I bought it for all my kids. All
yeah,
my kids have a copy of that book, and I've told them, and I've told all my kids the same thing. It's like skip starting. I've been running businesses my whole life.
yeah,
Like skip all that, go right to the real estate, and
right.
start building up your real estate portfolio.
Right. So
And
look,
so that's the reason I
Yeah,
handed them that
yeah.
book.
Ben Muller is the real deal, and I like Ben. Um, but Ben's doing a lot of really really big deals, and he had a little bit different
Yeah.
situation building his wealth. I think he had some starting out small stuff, um, but even then he had a mentor. He talks about it in some of his earlier video. He had a mentor with a big wallet, and Ben just took it to task. He had a big money behind him, and they bought stuff, and then they split it up, and then everything he owns by himself. He doesn't have any funds or any of that sort of thing. Ben's a one-man show, just like you and I are now. And
Yeah.
and Manny Koshman, same thing. Manny Koshman is real. He's a real deal. And as much as I
See, I
know,
don't even know who that is. That's probably one I need to look
Manny
up.
Koshman, he's got a book, The Contrarian Investor, and a nice guy. I spoke to him briefly, and one of the things again we were talking, one thing I garnered from him right away is he has a very, and I always say I have a high standard for making money. In other words, I'm not happy with 20% off or 30% off. I try to get, I can get 50%, 100% off, or cut it in half. Or what you did. That's why you made well, you came in with me and I said, you got to have a standard like this. You jumped in and you did it, and you were able where you could do it all the time. And that's why you made so much money so quickly. Well,
Right.
but that's when I was talking to Manny, and we were just talking about this stuff, how things are, and we're going to do a video together sometime. But he what I found just in talking to him is when we were talking, I said, yeah, I said, we were just talking about, I said, yeah, and and timing, are we going to have another, because sometimes we have these times where things just go up like a hockey stick, and if you can buy right at the right time and then enjoy the ride up, it's really, really cool. And he said, oh yeah, the timing. So, I could just tell by his reaction when I said that, he was just like, oh yeah, that's what I'm hoping for, is what's coming up next. And you know what I mean? And so, and
Yeah.
that's really, it's like, yeah, because we know when you've been doing it as long as I have, and I've been doing it longer than Manny, but he's caught some really good rides up, and he's made a lot of
Yeah.
money doing it. And I found he's also had a very high standard for profitability. In other words, he doesn't buy something to make, pennies. He buys something to make, he expects to make a substantial amount of money on his money. And that's probably what I have in common with Manny. Ben, I remember I asked Ben when Ben came, into the class. I said, so hey, what's one of the biggest, what's a home run deal? I said, I've made $1 million, I made a couple $1 million on a single deal. He said, I made 13 million on a single deal. That's a big number, right? So, but
Nice.
that kind of falls back on timing. And I'll tell you what's really interesting about this, and something I've been thinking a lot about here lately is when you're in times like this, you got high interest rate. You always want to buy below market, of course, but you're always trying to, you're trying to get rid of what you got in tough times in order to buy something better. That's why I always like to have, I always try to buy the deal. Now that I got more money, I can find a fantastic deal. I can pay cash for it, or buy it however I need to buy it. I can pay cash for it. And then I can start selling off the other assets to roll into it and doing a reverse 1031. Beautiful thing you can do. But again, it's kind of something out there more for wealthy people. But the game, when you don't have that kind of wealth, the tougher part is like having something sold and having to roll it into something better, because at some point you're going, crap, maybe you can't find something worth deferring all that into. You start to think, let's just say you have a standard of buying stuff for 20 cents on the dollar. And there's people that do have that standard. Very, very hard to find, but it takes a patience that I don't quite have either. But, when you're going to buy stuff for 20 cents on the dollar. So you're selling something and you expect to roll this huge chunk of money into buying something that if it's 20% occupied, it'll cover the mortgage. You know what I mean? Imagine that, buying a property that's only 20% occupied and it covers your costs. You know what I mean? That's a high standard. And so you're looking for that. And at some point, you may not get that. And then you got to decide, well, do I buy something that's 30 cents or 40 cents on the dollar, or am I better off taking the lumps and pay the taxes on this chunk of money that I made, and then, take that 60% of whatever the gain is or whatever, and go buy, and utilize that. But in other words, when you have the cash and you've already paid, it's like, it's like a drug dealer, they launder their money, right? Well, it's kind of like that way when you sell a piece of real estate, it's yours to defer until you either buy something and then you're like, okay, good, it's done. The money's done, it's clean, it's good. And now the other thing is now you don't make it. Well, now you got to pay taxes on this gain. So that's what I'm talking about, laundering. It's not a perfect term, but it's kind of the same thing. They're kind of like cleaning the money, and so the only way you clean that money is you pay the taxes on it, and now you put what's left in the bank. So you make $1 million.
Would it be better to sell the property, or would it be better to just refi the property and pull money out?
It depends, because if you refi it, you still got to manage it. You still got to take care of it. And
Right.
it's not as profitable, so it's not as fun anymore, right?
Yeah.
And so then, but no, I mean, it's a good model, and I've done a lot of that. I buy property and buy it under market, and then I borrow against it. I remember I bought a property, and I still own this property. I bought a property for $1,050,000, and when I bought it, I basically paid cash for it. I had $1,020,000 to put down on $1,050,000 purchase. And the day that I bought it, the bank gave me a line of credit for $800,000. So the day I bought it, I closed it and I owed $20,000 on a line of credit, but I still had 780 available to me. So the day one, I bought it, closed it, and had a line of credit available to me for 2 years for $800,000, because that's kind of equity I had. And then I used that and I parlayed it and bought, I got a couple more really great deals, that I financed with 400 down or 300,000 down or whatever. And, but it's really, really, the other thing is, if you can just buy, if you can buy in bad times and it pencils, you're golden. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
if you can make something pencil and you're paying 8% interest rate on it, and it still makes money and does well, and there's a profit, you still got a reasonable profit made, and you're getting good amount of money on your equity, well, you're fine. And now when times get better, you'll, if it does, if it doesn't, whatever. But if interest rates go down in the future, you refi that, and now you're going to make that the delta of whatever the interest rate is saved.
Even better deal. Yeah. So I'll just run my one of my last deals by you, and you tell me, because my numbers are a lot smaller than yours. So
it's all relative. That's what's cool. It's numbers, so they are.
Yeah. So this lady was selling a building in town for $35,000. I offered her 25. She took it on an owner carry, on a short-term owner carry. And then I quickly went in there, remodeled it. I put about 10 in the remodel. And then so then what I did is I leased it out. I got it leased to a massage company that they do massages and stuff. And I leased it to them for $850 a month on a 5-year note, on a 5-year contract, lease agreement. And So then I went to the bank and now this place is appraising for 125.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking, should I pull $100,000 out and go buy something else, or should I sell it for 125 and do a 1031 exchange?
It just depends. If, sometimes you can find somebody that wants your property, that can afford to buy it. Maybe it's a guy that owns the building next to your property. And this is
Mhm.
something I've done before. So there's a lot going on there with what you say. So first of all, yeah, obviously, if you find something you want, that's a great deal, then you got some options. You can either borrow against it and buy that other property, or you can sell it to the neighbor. If you find a neighbor that can afford it, buy it, sell it and roll it into that. Like I just sold the property. I paid 240,000 for this property, and I stole it. And I held it for about 10 years. I made 60 to 90,000 a year while I held it. But I had a neighbor that wanted it. And I said, look, I'll sell it to you when I find something I want to buy. And so in that situation, what I did is I just kept him. I said, no, it's yours, it's yours. And I said, I'll sell it to you for $1,725,000. And they're having a little heartburn over it. I know they wanted their pharmaceutical company. They already bought 2 other buildings. They needed it. They wanted it. And so then I found a deal. I found a property worth 4 million that I could buy for 2.8. And I said, okay, let's do it. And so I sold that property for $1,725,000. So I made $1.5 million on it. It's been long paid for. But so I took that 1,700,000 and I rolled that into the purchase of a $2.8 million property. And so, I got like in fact, and then I even got a little line of credit on top of it. So but basically I didn't buy something. In other words, I don't like putting myself under the pressure of a 1031. Yeah, 1031,
Yeah,
45 days. I mean, there's some other options that aren't very good, but the bottom line is you have 45 days to find something, to name it, and then you have 6 months to close. Now, with the
right.
pandemic stuff, they allowed that to be stretched a little bit further, a little bit longer. But uh, but yeah, no, what I would do, Ron, is if I were you, I would take your least desirable properties that you want to get rid of. Figure out what they're worth, what you can sell them for in 30 days. In other words, you have prices that you can get,
Liquidate
top
them,
dollar
yeah.
if you wait 90 days, and you got a price that you definitely can get if you sell it in 30 days. So find the asset you want to buy. Let's just say you have 6 properties worth 100 grand, and you go, okay, I got 600 grand sitting here. So what you do is go find the property you want to buy, borrow, or whatever you got to get the 600 grand, get that, purchase it, put that asset in an accommodator. You do 1031, reverse 1031. Have the accommodator, you buy this building that you want a keeper, and he's got it in his name, or she, and now you put your properties up for sale. And you sell those 6 properties, and as they sell, the money goes to this guy and he hands it back to you. But you're going to own it. In other words, because you paid cash on the loan. So as these sell, the money comes back to you. You pay off the loan, or pay yourself back, whatever the case is. And now you got rid of 6 problematic properties for 1. And that's really
One
what you're
night.
going to love best of all, because
Yeah,
you
that's where I want to be right now. That's where
yeah,
I
you
want to
want to
be.
own, this, it's just the economies of scale, right? In other words,
Yep. Yep.
I'm looking at a building right now, it's 40,000 square foot. It's a auction. And, you can see how these guys got chewed up in COVID, is what really damaged these guys.
Where's
And
it at?
yeah, USA.
Just kidding.
Yeah. Uh, anyways, but but I'm hopeful that if they accept my offer, I'll go, okay, great, I got it. And I put, 50, 60 grand is a holding thing. And then there's a little process. And then I'll go get the money and I'll pay cash for it. And then I'll decide what I want to roll into it. You know what I mean? I got a handful of houses and things that I'd like to get rid of. I bought 3 houses in the last 3 or 4 months, and there's probably 120 profit on each one. But I'll roll those 3 plus there's like, so it'd be like 1,200,000 on 3 houses, that I can roll into this purchase, or I can sell 6 and do almost 2.4 down, and maybe I get this for 3 or 4 million, and it's probably worth close to 6. You know what I mean? So,
Nice.
but
Nice.
that's what would make it worth it. That's what would work. That's what would work for me.
Yeah.
And like, you know, somebody said, it doesn't check all my boxes. I think it was actually Manny. And, you know, so you got to have these, you know, I thought it was a nice way to put it, is it doesn't check all my boxes. In other words, the property should check all your boxes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's right price. You can pay
It's got to
cash.
feel like Christmas. That's
Got
the
to feel
top
like
box.
Christmas. That's mine, right? That's mine. Is it's got to feel like Christmas when you're buying it. Otherwise, something's wrong.
That's right.
Yeah, and that really is. Yeah, I didn't even really remember saying that to you exactly when you told me. And so this
Yeah.
is so Ron's made fantastic deals. Everything he's made money on. But he said, you know, the only one I regret, I didn't make as much money on it as I could have or should have. A little more work than it was worth. And he said, and that's one I didn't listen to you on. He goes, that was the one that it didn't feel like Christmas. And I thought, I like it, I want it, but it didn't quite feel like Christmas. And so
Yeah. Yeah. And I bought it just to keep my guys busy between two projects. And I thought, this is a good filler. This will keep
yeah,
them busy.
it's not
Yeah.
good. I've
Yeah.
done it and I don't like it because you
I
end up
hate
throwing
that.
more money in the damn thing than you want. And that's what kills it, right? Because how do you
Yep.
keep your guys busy? By buying new material for them to put in the property. Yeah. So
Yeah. Yeah. No, exactly. So yeah, that was a but I mean, like I said, I still came out ahead on it, but I just didn't come
yeah.
out as good as I wanted. So, but yeah, I always think about that. Going back to one of the things we were talking about is mentors. One of the things that I often do is I look at mentors like a NASCAR race. I'm not looking to try and leapfrog to the front. I'm just looking to pass the person in front of me. So that person in front of me right now is you. And I bought, I paid for the mentorship to figure out what you're doing, but then I go and find another mentor to get me to the next product, to get me to
Right.
the next spot, get me to the next spot. Like you mentioned, you go to a certain state and you see everything for sale, and you're like, holy crud, everything is for sale down here. And it's like at that point, it's like, should I back off or should I hit the gas and push through?
Yeah, no, I think, the bottom line is you got to make a good decision. That's why, the two things I pound into the class is easy to do, hard to undo. Because it's very
Yeah.
hard to undo a mistake. When you buy something and you put yourself in a situation, can't get rid of the thing now. Easy to do, hard to undo. And then the other thing is, a kind of a mentor, role model, anyways. Uh, uh, Hank Booker. Uh, he'd say, Tommy, he goes, you never get hurt taking a profit. He said, so in other words, you like say you're maneuvering, you're seeing, is that a deal or not, or doesn't, I'm not sure. If you're not sure, don't buy it. If
Yeah.
you're not sure, don't buy it because, and you might, if you're not sure, it means you're not smart enough. Bottom line.
Yep.
If you're not sure, it means you're not smart enough to say yes or no. And so you just say no because
Yeah.
easy to do, hard to undo. And that's
How,
my
how, how do you feel about some of these markets where you're starting to see stuff on the market for 70 to 150 days, on the market?
it makes
Um,
me feel good because I know what's coming is they see the days coming when they have to refi the deal. The notes coming due and they're going to have to refi it at probably 3% higher than what they had financed it at years earlier. And they're going to be stuck. I mean, maybe they have a long-term mortgage, probably not, but they're going to be stuck. But it's good because the longer stuff sits on the market, it means that price has to drop. And if it doesn't drop, it just means they're trapped. You know, there's some people that are just trapped by their mortgage. They can't sell it for less than they owe on it. Or a lot of them, if they're, the fund guys, they take all these people's money and then a lot of times they'll pay almost cash for some of this stuff. And, they sit there and make 2% on the deal, and then they just tell everybody, well, we have it on the market, but they're still taking their 2%, on the overall fund. And so, it just depends on the property you're looking at. But when it comes to houses, what I've primarily been doing is buying stuff under $300,000. It's worth over 400,000. And I think that really out there, anybody right now that's into real estate, and it doesn't matter where you're at too, is you should be buying what's kind of the median level, right? The average value home or lower, the lowest cost home that's in a decent neighborhood, whatever that average value is, because everybody can afford that. And that'll come up the quickest when things do get better. You know what I mean? but
That's a
you
good
can't
point.
get hurt
That's a good
having the
point.
most affordable house in town. You know what I mean? Unless it's in a, crime area, then forget it. I'm saying
Sure, sure.
pushing crime aside, a decent house in a decent area is, you got to buy it right. But
Like you said, a 250,000, whatever that average home is, to get in there to learn the area. Because
you, yeah, you
I don't
don't
want to get,
have to buy the
I don't want to
home.
try and find a deal. I can't find a deal from 8 hours away. You know what I mean? And so
No, but
it's really hard.
yeah, but I wouldn't be afraid to rent, to be honest. I wouldn't be afraid,
That's a
go
good
get,
point too.
yeah, just go rent a 2 bedroom or 3 bed, whatever you need, whatever. Rent an apartment that's in the heart of the area you want to be in, and and then have it. And when you go to write the lease, just have a break clause that says, "Hey, I can terminate this lease at any time for 1 month's rent."
Yeah.
And now you got
Still
this
means I still got to move
jail.
twice though. Still
What's
got to
that?
move twice. I still have to move twice though.
Oh yeah, well, yeah, but I'll tell you that's exactly what I did when I moved to the area. I came and I rented a place. I had all my stuff in storage, and then I found a house that I liked. I bought the house, and then that's when the moving trucks came. I just
Yeah.
had like, suitcases and the bare minimum to
Yeah.
begin with, and it was a
No,
good.
that's a good point. I don't have to buy. I guess I could always just rent just to get to learn the area.
Oh yeah, it's worth it. I mean, there's no commitment. Your cash isn't tied up. It's you know what I mean. So you'd be better off rather than go pay 250 for a house or what, or 100 or whatever it is. You rent a place and you could really get a nice place and really eat it up. You know what I mean for a while, and then look and look and look, and then okay, then you know the area and you get your knowledge base right. Then you'll make the best decision. There'll be no hesitation. You'll be able to pay cash for it because you might make a mistake on buying the 250 place right now. I mean, you know what I mean? Buying without
Yep.
doing the work you're about to
That's
do.
what I'm scared of. Yeah.
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 So it's easier to rent. But if you, and then you, here's the other thing. You may rent there and find out, I hate this place. This ain't the place I want to live in. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That's a good point, which is exactly the advice I give business owners. It's so funny because there was a guy, I'll tell you a quick story. There was a guy that he wanted to start a burrito company. He wanted to start making breakfast burritos. And he had the math down. He knew exactly how much he was going to make per burrito, all this stuff. I said, "Have you ever ran a burrito business?" He goes, "No." I said, "Well, why don't you go work for this lady down the road? She sells breakfast burritos."
Yeah.
And so he did for $10 an hour. He came back to me a month later and goes, "That sucks."
Yeah.
He goes, "In order to sell a breakfast burrito, you got to wake up at 3 a.m. to start making them." And he goes, and then you smell like fried bread all day and fried eggs all day. He goes, "You can't get that smell out of your nose." And anyway, long story short, he said the same thing. He's like, he goes, "I don't, I don't want no part of that business."
No,
So,
yeah. I similarly, I know somebody about a donut shop and they realize, oh my God, you got to get up at 2 a.m. to have donuts ready at 6.
yeah,
And you got to
it's
glaze them with 10 different kinds of flavors. And I mean, ugh, you know, but
yeah,
yeah, that's that easy to do, hard to undo. So like you say,
yeah,
put in the water and then you realize, oh, you know what? This ain't for me. I don't like this. I similarly, I bought a house in Orofino, Idaho. Right. I got married in Vegas, and then we drove to Orofino where I bought a house the month before, and I thought, hey, maybe we'll live here. I mean, I go down there, and I quickly found out this is the worst. I mean, drugs everywhere. It's a logging area, and I hate to bash Orofino, it's a pretty area, but for the valleys are like this, so it's noon before you see the sun because the
oh,
terrain is like this. So it's cold. And then when the sun hits, you got it. Well, we got into the house that I bought and I said, I'm gonna go make a call. Phones didn't work. And so I can't find a phone booth in town. And I go to a gas station. I said, man, where do you find a phone booth? He said, go to the bar. I go, oh, great. It's 9 o'clock in the morning. He said, oh no, they're open, dude. And there's 4 of them. Tiny town, 4 bars. And I went in there at 9 a.m. and it's like I walked in on a Thursday night, ladies' night. It was packed. It was crazy. And I walked to the back of the bar where the toilets were, and there's the phone on the wall. And I made my call. And then, it wasn't later that day, even. I was telling my wife about the story. And we're driving, and I see, this kind of hillbilly looking guy, and he's got a blow-up sex doll under his arm, and he's just big old smile, he's laughing, he's just, and he's walking into one of the bars, and this is like at
Oh,
noon. But what I found is that when it's raining, when there's snow, a lot of these people are related to the logging business. They don't work, so they're not working, and idle hands are the devil's playground, right? And so you got alcoholism, you got drugs, and so that's why the bars are open at 9 a.m. And there's 4 of them in a tiny town of about maybe 2,000 people. And so I realized, oh yeah, we ain't gonna have kids and raise kids here. And so I turned the house, flipped the house. And but what I mean, but that goes to what we were talking about. Get an apartment and you go, oh yeah, maybe this ain't for me, for reasons that I never saw coming. I
yeah.
never
Learn the
thought,
area.
looks like God's
It's great
country.
advice, and it's so funny because that's the exact advice I give people on businesses. I don't know why I didn't give my own advice, take my own
Well, I think
advice.
we drew some parallels already, just what we were talking about, right? With the mentors
Yeah,
doing, and me too, anyways.
yeah,
So, yeah, and then what brings about opportunities, and probably what brings about, decay.
yeah, yeah. No, that's a good point. Dadgummit. All right, I'm gonna do that.
Yeah, yeah,
And that keeps my capital, right? And so, because I'm sitting there going, I got to try and buy a $250,000 house. It's going to have enough in there that I can pull money out, rent it out, and then buy the house that we want, and all this jumbling, rather than just hold on to my cash and just rent. That'd be
yeah.
better.
Well, like you say, that there's fear of failure. We kind of started on this subject about fear of failure, and you never had it. I've never really had it, but you have to be aware that you can make a mistake that'll entrap you for a long time, even if you have money. You're going, oh crap. You know what I mean? You can really put yourself in a pinch. And so, this is one of the things that the more money you have, you can invest in something that's maybe out of your league, or something new and different. And because you have money, you can keep throwing good money after bad, because you have a money machine. You can keep throwing good money after bad. So you have the potential to waste a lot of money, and you can. But if you're in an area, in a situation where this is what can happen. You get in a spot like that and you're throwing good money after bad on something, and then the economy starts to break and fall. And now, like I had, where's my book? Yeah, this book here. This is from 1981 to 1990. And this is my first $1 million made in real estate. And a lot of it is carrying notes on land. And what you would see is I made all these notes and stuff all through the 80s. Some are 100, 250, 350. There's a big one in there, 2,500 a month, that people were paying me. And I had $10,000 a month coming in just on note payments. No rents, just note payments. And I thought, oh, this is awesome. Well, then I started to get rid of, it was harder for me to get rid of some of my properties. So I took, I was not making as much as I thought I would. And then I'm thinking, I got to get out of here, and started looking for new areas to invest in. And then people started defaulting on the notes. And then, oh, now I don't have this $100 isn't coming. Then there's 250s not coming in. Pretty soon that $2,500 note stopped coming in. And so, and I had about 10 grand a month going out at that time. And so I got 10 grand coming in, 10 grand going out. And I felt pretty good because, things were good. I had other rentals coming in, money coming in, and sold my company. And then it seemed like every time $100 would stop coming in, or I'd get rid of a property. And so okay, now I'm not making that payment. So whatever mortgage I got rid of, one of my notes would default. And so I kept so the income and the outflow, they kept taking turns going all the way down to, zero eventually. And, but I mean, I tell you, like I say, there's a lot of fake gurus out there, but there's guys that just simply don't have any experience. And there's guys that actually might even believe that they know what they're doing because they've never seen 10% interest rates. They've never seen a discount coupon in the newspaper saying 10% off any house in the subdivision. You know what I mean? Because the massive bankruptcy, that stuff has happened. And if you haven't seen it, you wouldn't believe that it could even happen. And so, but when you've seen those kinds of days, you become very, very aware that things can get rough. Like how many people would say that interest rates could never go this high? So you can't because the bonds, shit. Government
Well, look
doesn't
at Ben
do
Malla.
anything.
Ben Malla is a prime example. He was banking that the
Oh, Ben
interest rates
Malla is a
wouldn't go
perfect
up.
example. Guess what? Ben Malla didn't see those days that I saw. He did not see those days that I saw. And so I
Yeah.
don't think he had the respect or he didn't have the experience that interest rates can go up a lot because he never saw those high interest rates. He never saw 10%. You know what I mean? And so, like I said, in 1 year, on what is it? Was it on? I think I figured it out. Yeah, on $150 million owed, it was now costing him $6 million more a year. 7 million. Yeah.
Ouch.
So yeah, I think I made a video called Ben Blue, and I like Ben, but but it's just fun to talk about. Every experience is fun to talk about. But look at
Oh,
and
sure.
like guys like you got fixed. We talked about it, and I was telling everybody in the class, I said, man, if you want to get rid of it now, and or if you want to keep it, refi it, get a fixed rate,
Yep.
and everybody in the class pretty much did. So
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I saw the writing on the wall. We talked about it in class. I went and I made sure all of mine were refied and I got all mine, including my commercial properties, on 30-year notes.
yeah,
So I luckily all my properties are on 30-year notes, which means in 30 years I'm going to be sitting sweet. In 20 years I'm going to be sitting really sweet.
oh,
And
yeah.
so
Yeah, and also I told everybody interest rates are not going to go down in 2024.
you did say that.
Yeah.
They're not going down. I think they're going to go up again. I think they're going to go
I
up.
wouldn't surprise me for them to go up. You know what I mean? Believe me, if there was, if there's any pressure on the, on the Fed, from the government, it would be in a presidential year. And it's just, there isn't enough pressure. The inflation's too much. They can't do it, and it's good that the interest rates are high. I got no problem with it, to be honest. I don't have any problem with it.
Well, no, it just keeps bringing them down.
I'm still making money. I'm just saying, even with the interest rates keep going up higher, it's okay with me because I've got a fixed rates on what I have, and anything that I buy, I'm going to factor that in. And if values go down, I'm still going to buy below whatever those values are. If things start
Yep.
to go up, I'm going to dump it and get rid of it, or you know what I mean? Just like we
Yeah,
talked
it's
about.
a good deal, right? As long as it's a good deal, as long as it pencils, it doesn't matter.
That's all right. That's right.
I don't care if the interest rates are 20%. If it pencils, it pencils, and
Right,
so
right. If you're in an area where you might be really worried about your rents suddenly going down, maybe I don't have that issue. I don't think you do either. But uh, what I've always see is the commercial that's getting started, that's on the outskirts in the suburbs. That stuff will go to shit really badly. And then because then they stop building the houses that are planned out and around those, those things will go to pot quickly because they just don't have the money. You know what I mean? It's only on one side of
yeah.
the track that they're getting the money. So, but yeah, so who knows? It's fun though. It's really, really fun. And it's great when you're doing the right things like you're doing, Ron, and I'm doing, and many of the people in the class, is that we get to be spectators to all this bullshit. You know what I mean? You get to be a spectator, not a participant in the carnage,
Yeah.
So
Yeah. No, it's kind of like watching a train wreck, Yeah.
yeah,
You can't take your eyes off it. You don't want to be part of it, but you can't take your eyes off of it
right.
either.
No, it's true. It's true. Yeah, and yeah. So, but man, this has been a fun interview, and
Yeah, thanks,
yeah,
Tom. Thanks for calling me. I appreciate it. It was a lot of
yeah,
fun.
well, I appreciate you hanging out and sharing. And so yeah, again, Ron here is a mentor, business mentor, and plug your, what's it called again?
Yeah, mentoringgiants.com.
Mentoring Giants. Yeah.
If you have a business or if you need any help, um, you can go onto the mentoringgiants.com and book a free 30-minute consultation with me. And, whether we work together or not, you at least get some advice, and go from there.
Yeah, listen, a phone call can go a long way. So like I said, if we start out early, I'll put this back in early. So Ron here, his company, Mentoring Giants, go to mentoringgiants.com. And like I say, you can have a phone call with Ron, and, I have consultations as well for what I do, which is real estate. But, man, a phone call can just get you on track, or at least keep you from making a big mistake. Like I've said through this thing, easy to do, hard to undo. Talk to Ron, about business, and me about real estate for just a short while. And, it could be the difference of, making a very big mistake, or, you'll just make a better decision, and,
Absolutely.
I always think about my jujitsu and stuff. I'd never be where I'm at if I didn't have a good mentor to teach me that. And
Yeah.
it just you get that information from the people that have it. Just so much simpler. So anyways, All right. Well, thanks, Ron. And maybe see you in class here again sometime soon.
Yeah, you bet, man. You bet.
All
You
right.
call me anytime.
All right,
I
man.
appreciate
Thank you.
it.
My book, Wake Up and Smell the Real Estate, it's been a bestseller on Amazon, Audible, and Kindle. But even better, it's been so successful so quickly that I have a number of millionaires and new students that have made hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands, and that's right, multi-millionaires, all on the back here. Take a look at Liam here. He made over $560,000.
When you know value, and then you listen to a man like Tom, he gives you confidence. You could do this.
Ron, over $3 million.
As soon as I hit your channel, I knew right away, and I was like, "Yep, this is the guy." And so I started watching it. I bought your book, and I just started buying. And then you made the mentorship.
Tina, $70,000 with just a couple of transactions.
Followed the steps. It was a contract assignment. It was a lot in a subdivision. It was literally the fastest $10,000 I've ever made.